Okay, hello. Here we are for the last reflection 4 on chapters 6 and 7. Once again, I just highlighted a few things that I found interesting and important to reflect on, and we are going to start on page 133, I believe. Yes, 133, with the case report with the young lady named Carrie. Um, and I was going to look at some of the exercise questions, both 1 and 3. So reflecting on Carrie's situation, do you think a ninth grade student can advocate for needs without intervention, and what curriculum, materials, and instruction would you provide? Well, the second part of the question, the curriculum and instruction material provided would be very specific to the student, clearly, and what they were working on and what they were transitioning into, whether it was functional skills or academics, or what their goals were. So um, as for Carrie's situation, and do I think a ninth grader can advocate for needs without intervention? Yes and no. I think partly they can. A ninth grader is a young adult or student that is coming into their own, and I definitely think, depending on what the disability is in the student, that they should be able to advocate for themselves to a certain extent. Clearly, with the Carrie situation, with the social anxiety and a lot of anxiety stuff, she had specifically said some things might hinder her from applying to jobs, so she might need that intervention or that extra push, or some materials such as social cues or prompts or things like that, so she doesn't freeze in certain situations, so that she can work at the pet store or whatever that she chooses that she'd like to do. But I definitely think, um, once again, I was talking in all my other reflections about having kids at IEPs and trying to include them as much. Well, I think the same thing with advocating for themselves. I think they can, and if you give them the chance, they'll do it as much as they can. And as educators and teachers, we need to take that in and use it, and then use our expertise and our knowledge that we have with what they've given us, and try to create a plan that works for us, or works for them, but also that we see them being successful in, since we are the educators and the knowledgeable ones. How did I feel when I read Carrie's narrative is the exercise question number 3. Those are the two I was going to do for this one. Um, I feel, or I felt, sad, kind of, to be honest. I mean, not sad, but sad for her. Um, they it says here, I was gonna look, da, 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 da. She wants to work in a pet store, and she's participating in some transition curriculum, excuse me, and is finding out things, and the team is trying to work with her. I definitely think it sounds like they've got um, a good thing going on. Her outlook isn't incredible at the end. It says, she doesn't feel like, or she just feels like she's got too many problems, and has been dealing with them since second grade. So, I think ninth grade is a tough a tough grade to be in, and I think if they keep working with her, I think this is a student that I could definitely see being successful, based off the knowledge and information that I have. Okay, we are going to jump to page 144 and go to exercise 1. 144, exercise 1. And it said, how would you define the terms distracting, emotional anguish, and scatterbrain to effectively understand the problems the student is trying to communicate? So, if you look up above, in Miss Smith's, it talks about feeling frustrated and agitated and anxious, and like you can't do the work, um, things like that. And I would say, that agitated and distracted and emotional anguish and scatterbrain just comes from a lot of frustration, usually. If a student can't keep up with the pace that the teacher is teaching and that the other students are going and understanding, it can become very, very frustrating. And then trying to keep up, you feel very scatterbrained, I guess I'm speaking from emotional or personal experience. And then that emotional anguish comes in where it's just you feel like you're not good enough, or you just get really down on yourself, and you're like, I can't do this, and that's where that negative self talk comes in. Um, but I feel like it's a lot of feeling overwhelmed and frustrated and not understanding, where then the distracting scatterbrain and emotional anguish kind of come in for a lot of students like that, when they just get overwhelmed, um, and not being able to escape that. It talks about in here, if I cannot escape stress, I want to hurt myself to distract from emotional anguish. So uh, it's to distracting ourselves from the feelings that you're constantly feeling of not being good enough, or doing the work good enough, or being as good as what society and people around us are putting putting up for us, and it's tough. Um, yeah, these are students that definitely need that extra love and that extra support and extra understanding, to just say, hey, like, it's okay. One step at a time, we'll take this, we can do this. Um, but just really being supportive, and working with them and understanding their problems. So that was that one. And exercise number 2, on page 153, is the last one from the book I'm going to look at, and it says, research whether a local school district has clubs that include students with disabilities. And so I work at Hopkins School District. So what I did is I looked up. There's a lot of inclusion, not necessarily just like you know clubs for students with disabilities, but there's a whole lot of inclusion. The first thing that I looked up was earlier this year in April. Um, they talked about 50 of the junior high students bravely jumped in frigid waters on a polar plunge challenge mobile pool. So they pulled up to West Junior High, and this was after they met a $10,000 fundraising goal. The mayor of Hopkins also took the plunge. And this was for West Unified Club. So it's a club that unites students of different physical and intellectual needs in friendship, and organized the challenge to raise money for the student group and Special Olympics. So it's just and that was just this April. So it just shows you that, Hopkins has a very big inclusion plan, and is all about inclusivity, and has a lot of clubs and things like that are very open and welcoming to anyone of any kind. And lastly, I just wanted to briefly touch base on a family member that I'm dealing with, who's 14 and dealing with ODD. And I just spent some time with him, and I just feel like a lot of this transition stuff is kind of what he's going through right now. He's not getting good grades, and he's kind of trying to figure out what he wants to do, and he's getting a lot of parent pressure and all of these things. And I just kind of wanted to say that, I'm kind of an uncle figure. He's only 14 and I'm 34, so, but we're second cousins, and I don't know. I really just tried to be there for him and supportive, and I talked to him today, and he, after I saw him yesterday, and he was just so thankful that, I wasn't trying to, I don't know, ask why he does these things or anything like that, but just, help him figure out next steps, and know that he can move forward and he doesn't have to live in the past. And I feel like that's a big thing of a lot of these transitioning students too, is that you don't have to be stuck on your disability, or anything that's happened in the past. You can move forward and grow, and become a better student and person. So anyways, last reflection. Thank you. Appreciate the short but quick semester. And yeah, thanks again.